Slide 1, Presenter Notes. Welcome. Today we undertake an exploration of one of the most central, most life-changing concepts in the Urantia Book, faith. Not the word faith, as it has been domesticated by centuries of theological convention, reduced to intellectual assent, creedal subscription, or the suspension of critical thought, but faith as the Urantia Book presents it, a living, dynamic, transformative act of the whole person reaching toward God. The Urantia Book contains over 500 passages that address the nature, function, and experience of faith. Together they constitute what may be the most comprehensive and philosophically sophisticated treatment of faith in any spiritual literature. And yet the core of what they say is breathtakingly simple. Paper 101 Section 0 Paragraph 1 opens with a sweeping declaration: religion, as a human experience, ranges from the primitive fear-slavery of the evolving savage up to the sublime and magnificent faith-liberty of those civilized mortals who are superbly conscious of sonship with the eternal God. Faith is the measure of that journey, from slavery to liberty, from fear to love, from isolation to sonship. In the next 60 minutes, we will trace that journey together, from the definition of faith to its mechanism, from its relationship with reason to its ultimate expression in the life of Jesus himself. We will discover that faith is not a solution to uncertainty, it is the courageous embrace of it. It is not the shutting down of the mind, it is its highest activation. It is not belief in spite of evidence, it is the soul's recognition of realities that transcend what evidence alone can reach. Let us begin. Slide 2, Presenter Notes. This overview maps the 20 dimensions of faith we will explore today. Notice that the presentation moves from foundation to application, from what faith is, to how it works, to how it expresses itself in the life of the believer, and finally to its cosmic and eternal dimensions. We begin in slides 1 through 5 with the philosophical foundations, defining faith, distinguishing it from mere belief, showing how it relates to reason, and identifying its source in the cosmic mind and the thought adjuster. Slides 6 through 10 move into the practical theology of faith, saving faith, faith sonship, the supreme example of Jesus' own faith, faith in prayer, and the all-important question of doubt. Slides 11 through 15 explore faith in action, its courageous dimension, its appearance across the world's religions, its relationship with science, its role in healing, and its connection to the kingdom of heaven. Slides 16 through 19 take us into the lived experience, service, survival, the ascent through the Urantia worlds, and the contrast between the religion of the Spirit and the religion of authority. And slide 20 brings everything together in a final synthesis, the integrated vision of what faith means in the Urantia revelation. This is a rich journey. I invite you to bring your questions, your doubts, and your own faith experience to each of these sections. The Urantia Book does not ask you to check your mind at the door. It asks you to bring all of yourself, mind, soul, and spirit, to the exploration of the deepest realities of your existence. Slide 3, Presenter Notes. We begin where all good scholarship begins, with definitions. What exactly does the Urantia Book mean by faith? The answer is immediately surprising. Paper 159 Section 3 Paragraph 8 gives us the most evocative definition of all: faith is to religion what sails are to a ship, it is an addition of power, not an added burden of life. Think about that image for a moment. Sails do not make the ship heavier, they make it faster. They do not constrain the vessel, they liberate it. Faith, in the Urantia Book's view, is not a weight to be carried or a price to be paid. It is the thing that catches the wind. Paper 101 Section 1 Paragraph 4 establishes that faith is a mode of insight. Religion lives and prospers not by sight and feeling, but rather by faith and insight. This is crucial. The Urantia Book is not presenting faith as a substitute for thinking. It is presenting faith as a higher kind of knowing, one that can perceive realities that neither sense nor reason alone can access. Paper 2 Section 6 Paragraph 1 reduces faith to its most essential element, trust. In its true essence, religion is a faith trust in the goodness of God. Not trust in a system. Not trust in an institution. Trust in the goodness of God. This is where faith begins and ends, in the personal, relational conviction that the universe is ultimately good, and that the one at the center of it loves us. Paper 1 Section 4 Paragraph 7 adds the dimension of intellectual wonder. Faith achieves the philosophic miracle of the recognition of the infinite by the finite. The word miracle is deliberate here. That a finite, time-bound, materially embedded creature can, by an act of faith, reach across the ontological gap and touch the infinite, this is the most astonishing achievement in the universe. And Paper 100 Section 3 Paragraph 7 brings us to the most demanding definition of all. Faith is the mobilization of the total powers of personality. Not a fragment of the person. The total. Faith is what happens when every dimension of your being, intellectual, emotional, moral, spiritual, is oriented toward God at once. This is the faith we will be exploring today. Slide 4, Presenter Notes. One of the Urantia Book's most important contributions to religious thought is the rigorous distinction it draws between mere belief and living faith. The failure to distinguish these two things has caused enormous confusion in both theology and personal spiritual life. Paper 99 Section 5 Paragraph 7 captures the distinction in a single remarkable sentence. Let the term, faith, stand for the individual's relation to God rather than for the creedal formulation of what some group of mortals have been able to agree upon as a common religious attitude. Faith is relational, personal, alive. Creed is collective, propositional, and can become a dead formula. Paper 101 Section 2 Paragraph 13 is even more precise. True religion is an insight into reality, the faith child of the moral consciousness, and not a mere intellectual assent to any body of dogmatic doctrines. The word mere is doing enormous work here. Intellectual assent is not wrong, it can be a starting point. But it is not faith, any more than reading about swimming is swimming. Paper 92 Section 3 Paragraph 4 describes what happens when belief hardens into creedal religion. Evolutionary religion makes no provision for change or revision. Unlike science, it does not provide for its own progressive correction. Creedal belief resists growth because growth requires the admission that what one believed before was incomplete. Living faith, by contrast, welcomes growth, it is inherently progressive. Paper 195 Section 9 Paragraph 8 offers the most searching critique of second-hand religion. What an awakening the world would experience if it could only see Jesus as he really lived on earth and know, firsthand, his life-giving teachings. Descriptive words of things beautiful cannot thrill like the sight thereof, neither can creedal words inspire men's souls like the experience of knowing the presence of God. The invitation of the Urantia Book is always away from inherited belief toward personal experience. Not because tradition has no value, it does, but because no one has ever been truly transformed by someone else's faith. Slide 5, Presenter Notes. One of the most important contributions the Urantia Book makes to religious thought is its insistence that faith and reason are not opponents. The warfare between science and religion is, in the Urantia Book's view, a false conflict, a product of misunderstanding on both sides. Paper 101 Section 2 Paragraph 2 lays out the framework with crystalline clarity. Reason is the method of science, faith is the method of religion, logic is the attempted technique of philosophy. These are not three rivals competing for dominance. They are three complementary approaches to a single, complex reality, three instruments playing in the same orchestra. Paper 101 Section 2 Paragraph 3 describes how they relate to each other. Reason can take you to the first cause of science, but it takes faith to recognize that first cause as a God of salvation, a personal, loving, spiritually responsive being. Reason reaches the edge of what the material world can tell us. Faith takes the next step. But that next step is not a leap in the dark. Paper 101 Section 2 Paragraph 10 gives us the most beautiful image of all. Faith reveals God in the soul. Revelation enables man to see the same God in nature that faith exhibits in his soul. Thus does revelation successfully bridge the gulf between the material and the spiritual. Faith does not contradict what reason discovers, it completes it. Paper 101 Section 2 Paragraph 8 offers the synthesis. Science yields knowledge, religion yields happiness, philosophy yields unity, revelation confirms the experiential harmony of this triune approach to universal reality. For approaches, for yields, all converging on the same truth. The Urantia Book's position is not that faith requires the abandonment of reason. It is that reality is richer than reason alone can capture, and that faith is the appropriate instrument for the dimensions of that richness which transcend the material and the measurable. Slide 6, Presenter Notes. One of the most profound insights of the Urantia Book is that the human capacity for faith is not something we manufacture. It is given to us. It is a cosmic endowment, a gift from God, mediated through the very structure of the universe. Paper 101 Section 3 Paragraph 2 opens a window into the architecture of this endowment. Faith insight, or spiritual intuition, is the endowment of the cosmic mind in association with the thought adjuster, which is the Father's gift to man. The capacity for faith is literally built into us, not as a neurological accident, but as a deliberate bestowal from the source of all being. This endowment has three dimensions, corresponding to three great spiritual presences that minister to the human soul. The first is faith insight, spiritual intuition, the gift of the Father through the thought adjuster. This is the deepest level, the inner pull toward God, the hunger and thirst for righteousness that the adjuster creates within us. The second dimension is spiritual reason, soul intelligence, the gift of the Holy Spirit, the creative spirit of the local universe. This is what enables us not just to feel faith but to think with it, to bring our soul-level insights into coherent relationship with our intellectual life. The third dimension is spiritual philosophy, wisdom, the gift of the Spirit of truth, the combined bestowal of the Creator Sons. This is what enables faith to mature into wisdom, the capacity not merely to know truth but to live it, to embody it, to demonstrate it in the texture of daily existence. Paper 16 Section 6 Paragraph 10 brings this together in an extraordinary passage. Matter energy is recognized by the mathematical logic of the senses, mind reason intuitively knows its moral duty, spirit faith is the religion of the reality of spiritual experience. Three levels of reality, three modes of knowing, all given to us as part of what it means to be a human being made in the image of God. You did not create your capacity for faith. But you are responsible for what you do with it. Slide 7, Presenter Notes. One of the most remarkable and distinctive doctrines of the Urantia Book is its teaching about the thought adjuster, the fragment of the Universal Father that actually indwells every morally conscious human being. And the adjuster's relationship to faith is intimate and foundational. Paper 101 Section 2 Paragraph 14 gives us the key insight: your deepest nature, the divine adjuster, creates within you a hunger and thirst for righteousness, a certain craving for divine perfection. This is extraordinary. The very desire for God that we experience as arising from within us, the spiritual restlessness, the sense that there must be something more, is itself the adjuster working. When you yearn for God, that yearning is God pulling you toward Himself. And then this, religion is the faith act of the recognition of this inner urge to divine attainment. Faith is recognition. Not creation, not manufacture, not willpower, recognition. The adjuster creates the impulse, faith is the moment we say yes to it, the moment we name it for what it is and consciously align our will with it. Paper 5 Section 3 Paragraph 8 deepens this. In worship and prayer, it is the adjuster present conducting such worship in behalf of the mortal mind and the evolving immortal soul. When you pray with genuine faith, you are not alone in that prayer. The adjuster is praying with you, through you, lifting your imperfect longings into the presence of the Father who indwells it. Paper 101 Section 6 Paragraph 2 makes the bold claim: the adjuster is the secret of the personal realization of the reality of the existence of the Supreme. Every genuine encounter with spiritual reality, every moment of genuine faith, has the adjuster's fingerprints on it. This means that faith is, at its deepest level, not a human achievement. It is a divine-human collaboration. You bring the willingness to say yes, God provides the pull that makes yes possible. Slide 8, Presenter Notes. We come now to the doctrine that is at the very center of the gospel message as the Urantia Book presents it: saving faith. Faith as the mechanism, the one and only mechanism, by which a mortal human being enters into the experience of sonship with God. Paper 170 Section 3 Paragraph 3 gives us the most precise theological statement. Faith is the price you pay for entrance into the family of God, but forgiveness is the act of God which accepts your faith as the price of admission. Notice the extraordinary economy of this. The price is not wealth, not moral perfection, not priestly intercession, it is faith. And even that faith, once given, is immediately met by God's forgiving acceptance. Paper 93 Section 6 Paragraph 4 takes us back to the founding covenant, Melchizedek's agreement with Abraham, which the Urantia Book describes as the great prototype of saving faith. God agrees to do everything, man only agrees to believe God's promises. This is the original gospel, not Paul's version, not the later theological elaborations, but the foundational covenant of grace. God does everything, we simply trust. And Paper 93 Section 4 Paragraph 5 offers the most humanly accessible statement of all. Abraham believed half-heartedly, and even that was counted for righteousness. Half-hearted faith. Not perfect faith, not fully developed faith, not faith that had resolved all its doubts, half-hearted faith. And it counted. This is the breadth of divine grace. It meets us not where we should be, but where we actually are. Paper 150 Section 5 Paragraph 3 gives us Jesus' own 3/10 statement of saving faith. By faith you are justified, past. By faith are you saved, present. By this same faith are you eternally advanced, future. Faith is not a single moment, it is a way of being that carries you from the beginning of your spiritual life all the way to paradise. And Paper 186 Section 5 Paragraph 9 simplifies the entire doctrine to a single sentence. Only one thing is required to make such a truth factual in your personal experience, and that is your spirit-born faith. One thing. Slide 9, Presenter Notes. The doctrine of faith sonship is one of the most extraordinary and democratizing teachings in the Urantia Book. It asserts, without qualification, that every mortal human being who responds to the inner pull of the thought adjuster with faith, no matter how imperfect, no matter how tentative, becomes, in that act, a son or daughter of the Universal Father. Paper 40 Section 6 Paragraph 2 begins with a word that should stop us in our tracks: solemn. It is a solemn and supernal fact that such lowly and material creatures as Urantia human beings are the sons of God, faith children of the highest. The solemnity here is not funereal, it is the gravity of something too important to be passed over quickly. These words are asking us to truly reckon with what we are. Paper 40 Section 6 Paragraph 4 makes the crucial clarification: you believe in the reality of your sonship, and thus does your sonship with God become eternally real. The fact of sonship exists cosmically, it is already true in the divine economy. But it becomes experientially real. Real in your actual life, your actual consciousness, your actual way of moving through the world, through faith. Faith is the bridge between the fact of what you are and the experience of being it. Paper 193 Section 0 Paragraph 4 reduces the entire gospel to 10 words that deserve to be memorized. Men are the sons of God, and through faith they can actually realize, and daily experience, this ennobling truth. Daily experience. Not a one-time theological discovery, not a peak spiritual moment, but a daily, lived, moment-to-moment realization of what you already are. Paper 34 Section 6 Paragraph 4 gives us the most poetic formulation: those who have trusted the adjuster's leading are the faith sons of God, spirit-born, father-loved, destined for an eternal career of ascending glory. This is the ennobling truth. Every human being is already a child of God. Faith is simply the act of coming home to what you always were. Slide 10, Presenter Notes. We come now to the supreme exhibit of faith in all of human history, the faith of Jesus of Nazareth. Paper 196 is one of the most extraordinary pieces of spiritual literature ever written, a sustained meditation on the inner life of the greatest soul who ever lived on Urantia. Paper 196 Section 0 Paragraph 1 gives us the opening summary: Jesus enjoyed a sublime and wholehearted faith in God. Notice the adverb, wholehearted. Not partial, not conditional, not contingent on favorable circumstances. His faith was not a fair-weather posture, it held through every storm. Paper 196 Section 0 Paragraph 3 makes the most important distinction. Jesus' great contribution to the values of human experience was not that he revealed so many new ideas about the Father in heaven, but rather that he so magnificently and humanly demonstrated a new and higher type of living faith in God. He did not primarily teach a doctrine of faith. He lived it. He demonstrated it. He showed the universe what faith actually looks like in the texture of a human life. And that demonstration was all the more powerful for being genuinely human. Paper 196 Section 0 Paragraph 1 confirms, he experienced the ordinary ups and downs of mortal existence. He was tired. He was disappointed. He was opposed, misunderstood, betrayed, and ultimately killed. He felt all of this. And through all of it, his faith in the Father never wavered. Paper 196 Section 0 Paragraph 3 adds the most searching observation: Jesus did not use religion as a release from life. He did not escape into faith, he brought faith into everything. He used it not to avoid the difficulties of existence but to face them with equanimity, with courage, and with the full assurance that he was achieving the Father's will. Never before or since, in the life of any mortal on any world in this universe, did God become such a living reality as in the human experience of Jesus of Nazareth. His faith is not a standard we are expected to replicate immediately, it is a horizon we are invited to spend eternity approaching. Slide 11, Presenter Notes. Prayer and faith are inseparable in the Urantia Book. You cannot have genuine prayer without faith, and faith naturally expresses itself in prayer. They are two aspects of the same reaching of the creature toward the Creator. Paper 91 Section 9 Paragraph 8 contains a list of the requirements for effective prayer. The seventh and final requirement is the most direct statement in the entire book on this subject, and you must have faith, living faith. Not faith as a formality, not faith as a theological premise, living faith. Faith that is actually alive in the one who prays. Paper 91 Section 4 Paragraph 5 is one of the most practically important passages in the book. Even if prayer does not change God, it very often affects great and lasting changes in the one who prays in faith and confident expectation. This is a profound reorientation. Prayer is not primarily about changing God's mind. God does not have a mind that needs changing. God is already perfectly loving, already perfectly willing the best for every creature. Prayer is about changing us. It is the discipline by which we align ourselves with what God is already doing. Paper 91 Section 6 Paragraph 3 catalogues the outcomes of faith-filled prayer: personal happiness, individual self-control, social harmony, moral progress, and spiritual attainment. Notice that all 5 of these outcomes are primarily about the person who prays, not about changing external circumstances. Paper 168 Section 4 Paragraph 10 gives us the most searching principle: no prayer can hope for an answer unless it is born of the Spirit and nurtured by faith. Your sincere faith implies that you have in advance virtually granted your prayer hearers the full right to answer your petitions in accordance with that supreme wisdom and that divine love which your faith depicts. This is remarkable. Sincere faith in prayer is actually an act of trust in God's wisdom. It grants God permission to answer in the best way, not merely in the requested way. Prayer is the daily bread of faith. And faith is the substance that makes prayer real. Slide 12, Presenter Notes. One of the most humanizing aspects of the Urantia Book's treatment of faith is its honest engagement with doubt. The book does not pretend that faith is easy, or that sincere seekers never struggle. It acknowledges doubt, analyzes it, and then shows why and how faith ultimately triumphs over it. Paper 159 Section 3 Paragraph 8 frames the entire spiritual life as a single battle. The believer has only one battle, and that is against doubt, unbelief. Everything else, moral failure, intellectual confusion, social pressure, grief, loss, all of these are specific forms of the one fundamental challenge: maintaining faith in the face of the apparent indifference or hostility of the universe. Paper 48 Section 7 Paragraph 4 offers one of the most penetrating psychological observations in the book: few persons live up to the faith which they really have. Unreasoned fear is a master intellectual fraud practiced upon the evolving mortal soul. Most of the doubt that people experience is not genuine intellectual questioning. It is fear, dressed up in the clothing of reason, pretending to be a principled position. The remedy for this kind of doubt is not more evidence. It is courage. The story of the father of the epileptic boy in Paper 158 Section 5 Paragraph 2 is the most honest moment in the Gospel narratives. Lord, I believe. I pray you help my unbelief. This is not a failure of faith, it is faith in its most mature form, in that it refuses to pretend. The man is saying, I have as much faith as I actually have, and I am bringing all of it to you, even though it is mixed with doubt. And Jesus healed his son. Paper 194 Section 3 Paragraph 2 gives us the final word on doubt. Does faith, after all, triumph over evil, sin, and iniquity? It does. And the life and death of Jesus are the eternal proof. The resurrection is not a theological claim, it is the Urantia Book's ultimate answer to doubt. The universe is on the side of faith. Goodness wins. Truth survives. Love endures. Slide 13, Presenter Notes. The Urantia Book presents faith as one of the most courageous acts a human being can undertake. This may surprise us, because we are accustomed to thinking of faith as a passive posture, a willingness to believe rather than an active engagement with life. But the Urantia Book's vision of faith is profoundly active, profoundly demanding, and profoundly heroic. Paper 155 Section 5 Paragraph 11 gives us the most comprehensive list of what living faith actually requires: effort, struggle, conflict, faith, determination, love, loyalty, and progress. Read that list again. There is nothing passive on it. Faith, in the Urantia Book's understanding, is not the avoidance of struggle, it is the willingness to embrace it, to face it honestly, and to emerge from it strengthened rather than diminished. Paper 155 Section 5 Paragraph 10 describes what the Urantia Book sees as the greatest adventure available to a human being, the supreme adventure of all human existence: man seeking God, for himself and as himself, and finding him. The word adventure is deliberate. Adventures are risky. They involve uncertainty, difficulty, and the genuine possibility of failure. Faith is not the elimination of that uncertainty, it is the courage to proceed in the face of it. The contrast with religion as authority is sharp. Paper 155 Section 5 Paragraph 10 describes those who choose the safe path. They choose authoritative certainty over the assurance of progressive living faith. They sacrifice the sovereignty of their own personality and the dignity of their self-respect in exchange for the comfort of having someone else tell them what to believe. The Urantia Book respects even this choice. It acknowledges that not everyone is ready for the open sea, but it is unambiguous about which path leads to genuine growth. Paper 26 Section 5 Paragraph 3 shows us where courageous faith ultimately leads. The ascending pilgrims who have traversed all the difficulties of the ascent have learned to feast upon uncertainty, to fatten upon disappointment, to enthuse over apparent defeat, to invigorate in the presence of difficulties, to exhibit indomitable courage in the face of immensity. Their battle cry, in liaison with God, nothing, absolutely nothing, is impossible. That is where faith takes you. Slide 14, Presenter Notes. The Urantia Book's treatment of faith across the world's religions is remarkable for its generosity and its honesty in equal measure. It finds genuine faith in every great religious tradition, even while it is equally honest about each tradition's limitations and distortions. Paper 92 Section 7 Paragraph 3 sets the tone. The many religions of Urantia are all good to the extent that they bring man to God and bring the realization of the Father to man. This is not an uncritical universalism, it acknowledges that some religions do this better than others. But it refuses the arrogance of claiming that only one tradition has access to truth. All contain truth. all could learn from each other. The story of the Salem missionaries is the most dramatic thread in this comparative narrative. Paper 92 Section 5 Paragraph 10 tells us that these missionaries proclaimed faith as the price of favor with God, and that their teachings, though they produced no immediately appearing religions, nevertheless formed the foundations on which later teachers of truth were to build the religions of Urantia. The gospel of faith was sown across the entire Eastern Hemisphere 2,000 years before Jesus. He did not invent the gospel of faith, he fulfilled it. The most surprising moment in this narrative is the Buddhist parallel. Paper 94 Section 7 Paragraph 5 tells us that Gautama proclaimed free salvation, that all men, high and low, can attain bliss by faith in righteousness and justice. And the Amida faith of Japanese Buddhism, as Paper 94 Section 12 Paragraph 3 describes it, proclaims salvation by faith in the divine mercies and loving care of Amida, God of the paradise in the West. This is essentially the Melchizedek gospel translated into Eastern garb. The universal reach of the faith gospel, across cultures, centuries, and spiritual traditions, is itself evidence of what the Urantia Book teaches, that the capacity for faith is built into the cosmic structure of every human mind. God has not left himself without witness anywhere on earth. Slide 15, Presenter Notes. The relationship between faith and science is one of the most urgent questions of our age. The Urantia Book addresses it with a clarity and nuance that is, in my view, unsurpassed in spiritual literature. Paper 195 Section 7 Paragraph 1 begins with a gentle but pointed rebuke. How foolish it is for material-minded man to allow such vulnerable theories as those of a mechanistic universe to deprive him of the vast spiritual resources of the personal experience of true religion. The word vulnerable is doing important work here. The mechanistic view of the universe, the view that everything that exists is exhausted by physical description, is not the conclusion of science. It is a philosophical interpretation of science, and a vulnerable one at that. Paper 101 Section 5 Paragraph 2 draws the line with precision. Science deals with facts, religion is concerned only with values. This is not a compromise position, it is a clear delineation of territory. Science is the right instrument for facts. Faith is the right instrument for values. And values, what makes life worth living, what makes science worth pursuing, what makes a human being more than a complex machine, are not accessible by scientific method. Paper 195 Section 7 Paragraph 4 adds the dimension of perception, paradise values of eternity and infinity, of truth, beauty, and goodness, are concealed within the facts of the phenomena of the universes. The facts are there for everyone to observe. But it requires the eye of faith in a spirit-born mortal to detect and discern these spiritual values. Science sees the sunset. Faith sees the glory. Paper 98 Section 2 Paragraph 12 offers the most constructive vision. The ideal human estate is that in which philosophy, religion, and science are welded into a meaningful unity by the conjoined action of wisdom, faith, and experience. Not faith against science. Not science without faith. Both, integrated by wisdom into a coherent way of being human in a universe that is simultaneously material and spiritual. Facts never quarrel with real spiritual faith. Only theories do. Slide 16, Presenter Notes. The healing narratives in the Urantia Book are among the most psychologically and spiritually rich passages in any spiritual text. They are not primarily stories about miracles, they are stories about faith. The miracle is almost incidental. What matters is the faith that made it possible. Paper 149 Section 1 Paragraph 8 gives us the interpretive key. In the presence of Jesus, certain forms of profound human faith were literally and truly compelling in the manifestation of healing. The faith did the work. Jesus was the catalyst, but the active ingredient was the faith of the person reaching toward him. The story of Veronica in Paper 152 Section 0 Paragraph 3 is the most analytically precise account. Jesus is clear that her healing had nothing to do with his garment, the superstitious element of her belief was simply the form her faith took. The substance was her faith itself, pure and living faith. He corrects the superstition without invalidating the faith that came wrapped in it. This is the extraordinary pastoral wisdom of Jesus. He meets people where they are, honors the faith they actually have, and gently redirects the superstition without dismissing the sincere soul. The story of the Syrian woman in paper 156 section 1 paragraphs 7 and 8 shows us that faith can be insistent, even playful. She would not be sent away. She argued with Jesus' apparent reluctance, and Jesus was touched by both her faith and her humor. Great is your faith. He did not say, correct is your theology. He said great is your faith, meaning its persistence, its creativity, its refusal to give up. And the bent-over woman in paper 167 section 3 paragraph 1 gives us the most memorable image, a woman literally bowed down by fear for 18 years, straightened by a single act of faith. Fear bows the soul. Faith straightens it. This is as true psychologically and spiritually as it was physically in that synagogue. Your faith has made you whole. The invitation stands today as it did then. Slide 17, Presenter Notes. The kingdom of heaven is, in the Urantia Book's presentation, fundamentally a faith reality. You cannot enter it by works, by your way in with moral accomplishments, or inherit it from your parents. The door is faith, and faith alone. Paper 170 section 2 paragraph 20 gives us the most startling timing. Jesus taught that, by faith, the believer enters the kingdom now. Not at death. Not at some eschatological future event. Now, in this life, by the present act of genuine faith. The kingdom is a present spiritual reality for anyone who exercises genuine faith, wherever they are and whatever their circumstances. Paper 166 section 3 paragraph 3 gives us the invitation in Jesus' own words. The door to the way of life is narrow, meaning it requires a specific orientation, a sincere reaching toward God, but it is wide enough to admit all who sincerely seek to enter, for I am that door. The narrowness of the door is not a restriction on who may enter, it is a description of what entering requires. Sincerity. Genuine seeking. The rest is taken care of. Paper 170 section 2 paragraph 21 gives us the two dimensions of faith entry, childlike openness and wholehearted dedication. The childlike quality is not naivety, it is the openness that has not yet been closed by pride, prejudice, and the need to appear to already know everything. The wholehearted quality is not perfectionism, it is the orientation of the whole person toward God, even with all its imperfections. Paper 176 section 3 paragraph 3 gives us the most important warning about kingdom faith: it must be living. This survival faith is a living faith, and it increasingly manifests the fruits of that divine spirit which first inspired it in the human heart. A faith that does not grow, that does not bear fruit, that does not increasingly manifest the qualities of spirit, is a faith that has become a merely nominal profession. Living faith, by contrast, is always growing, always reaching further, always becoming more alive. The kingdom is open. The door is faith. Walk through it today. Slide 18, Presenter Notes. Faith is never purely interior. It always expresses itself outwardly, in action, in relationship, in the quality of a person's engagement with the world. Paper 101 section 3 paragraph 4 gives us the most comprehensive list of faith's outward indicators, 12 ways in which genuine faith demonstrates the potential divinity of the human soul. These 12 indicators are remarkable for several reasons. First, they are almost entirely relational. They describe how a faith-filled person treats other people, not merely what they believe or feel internally. Second, they are progressive. Faith that is genuine grows, it does not remain static. Third, they are indistinguishable from the fruits of the Spirit listed in paper 34 section 6 paragraph 13, love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, and temperance. Real faith produces real fruit. Paper 34 section 6 paragraph 13 gives us the living picture. those in whom the Spirit dwells have already begun to discern the lights of eternal life as they glimmer on the faraway shores of another world. Already have they begun to comprehend the reality of that inspiring and comforting truth: the kingdom of God is not meat and drink but righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Spirit. These qualities, righteousness, peace, joy, are not achievements to be worked toward. They are the natural atmosphere of a soul in which faith has taken root. Paper 101 Section 3 Paragraph 4 is also significant for what it says about the relationship between faith and intellectual integrity. One of the 12 indicators is that genuine faith continues to exhibit undaunted faith in the soul's survival regardless of the deceptive teachings of false science and the persuasive delusions of unsound philosophy. Real faith does not require the suppression of intellectual life. But it does require the courage to trust spiritual realities even when the intellectual atmosphere is hostile. Faith, in the end, is known by its fruits. And the fruits are beautiful. Slide 19, Presenter Notes. We come now to the most expansive dimension of faith, its cosmic and eternal scope. Faith is not merely a feature of mortal religious life. It is the quality that carries the soul from its first moral choice on a material world all the way to the shores of paradise, and beyond. Paper 26 Section 4 Paragraph 13 gives us one of the most extraordinary statements in the book: your faith has been tested. You are known to be disappointment-proof. Disappointment-proof. Think about what it takes to become disappointment-proof: what quality of faith, what depth of trust in God, what thorough integration of spirit reality into every dimension of your being. By the time an ascending mortal reaches Havona, they have developed exactly this quality. Paper 26 Section 4 Paragraph 14 makes the cosmic claim: faith has won for the ascendant pilgrim a perfection of purpose which admits the children of time to the portals of eternity. It is faith, not knowledge, not wisdom, not cosmic perfection, that opens the portals of eternity. Faith is still the key at the end of the journey that it was at the beginning. Paper 26 Section 5 Paragraph 3 shows us what faith looks like at this stage of the ascent. The pilgrims have learned to feast upon uncertainty, to fatten upon disappointment, to enthuse over apparent defeat. What began as the tentative, half-hearted faith of Abraham has become, through eons of experience and growth, an indomitable, universe-spanning confidence. Their battle cry, in liaison with God: nothing, absolutely nothing, is impossible. And Paper 27 Section 1 Paragraph 4 reveals that even on the shores of paradise, the final step into eternal life is an act of faith. You will recall the last grand stretch of faith as you once again made ready to commend the keeping of your identity into the hands of the Universal Father. The very last act of the creature's ascent is still an act of trust, the ultimate surrender of self into the care of the Father who has been guiding every step of the journey. Faith begins with a whisper. It ends at paradise. And even there, it is still the living posture of a creature before its Creator. Slide 20, Presenter Notes. We have come to the end of our 20-slide exploration of faith in the Urantia Book. And I want to close not with a summary of doctrines, though we have covered many, but with an invitation. The Urantia Book's vision of faith is not primarily an intellectual construct. It is a call to a way of living. Everything we have explored today, from the cosmic endowment of faith capacity to the healing narratives, from the faith of Jesus to the ascendant pilgrims at the portals of paradise, all of it is pointing toward the same thing: the possibility of a life genuinely lived in the presence of God. Faith, in the Urantia Book's understanding, is neither the blind acceptance of unprovable claims nor the warm feeling of spiritual contentment. It is something harder, more demanding, and more beautiful than either of those. It is the courageous, wholehearted, fully personal reaching of the finite creature toward the infinite Father, and the discovery that the Father has been reaching back all along. Paper 100 Section 3 Paragraph 7 told us that man's sole contribution to growth is the mobilization of the total powers of his personality, living faith. This is your contribution. Not your theological correctness. Not your moral achievement. Not your intellectual sophistication. The mobilization of everything you are, in the direction of the one who made you and loves you. Paper 101 Section 0 Paragraph 1 promised us that religion ranges from the primitive fear slavery of the evolving savage up to the sublime and magnificent faith liberty of those civilized mortals who are superbly conscious of sonship with the eternal God. We began in fear slavery. We are invited to end in faith liberty, the liberty of those who know they are beloved children of an infinite, personal, and loving Father. And Paper 196 Section 0 Paragraph 3 holds before us the supreme example, Jesus of Nazareth, in whose human experience God became more of a living reality than in any other mortal life in this universe. His faith is not a standard to be anxiously measured against. It is a horizon to be spent eternity approaching. And the journey begins with a single act, trust. Thank you.